Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've been a pleasure to be in front of. My name's Nico White. Thank you so much. Now then, I have an amazing show for you tonight. Coming out to this stage is a young man who built his career over the last few years, and he's only doing better and better. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the people you came to see tonight. Start clapping your hands right now for Felix Levine. Thank you, Chief.
How we doing, City Winery? A lot of beautiful people. I recognize some. Dad. Where's my mom? Oh, of course she's standing up. Divorced parents, of course, sitting away from each other. Beautiful to, thank you so much for coming out. I'll introduce my co-host in a second, but on a personal level, I got some high school friends in here, and I went to high school about 30 blocks north of here. And to do my first ever live show here is very, very special, so I want to thank everybody for coming out. You'll find out in a little bit how we got here, how I am sitting next to, or in a second, I'll be sitting next to the former hitman for John Gotti Sr. and the Mafia. If you asked me a little while back how we got here, I would tell, or that I would be here today, I would say, nope, you need a straight jacket and to be sent directly home. But it's been quite a journey, and him and I are going to talk about our relationship and his life. A little bit of context for people who are not familiar with him. He's an interesting individual. This is somebody who I've now known for about 4 years now. This is somebody who did a lot of bad things in his life. This is somebody who went to jail for nearly 2 decades. This is somebody who spent nearly 10 years in solitary confinement. This is somebody who subscribed to a life that is treacherous, that leads nowhere. He's done a lot of bad in his former life, but I've only known him in this second life. You guys will be the judges of how you feel about him. On a personal level, this is somebody I've gotten to know very personally, and I'm excited to have you guys see him, talk to him. We're gonna bring some people up, some very special individuals in the crowd that we will, I'll let you find out when you see them. But without further ado, please welcome my co-host, Mr. John Alite. Can you guys tell who's the former mobster and who's not?
Maya Lansky.
So I guess let's start with a little bit of perspective while we're here. 2005, I was running around in a courtyard at recess. Where were you?
I was in a Brazilian penitentiary. Running around.
or not running around. We wanted to first start with how we even got to where we are today. I think that's the question that a lot of people have.
Hey, guys.
That's his son.
All my sons, everybody.
So John and I met about 3-4 years ago. I host my podcast, and I had him as a guest on my show. And at that point, I was a young, well, I'm still young, but I was younger. And I think that what interested me is the fact that I lived a life so different than yours. I was interested by the psychology behind it, how different you were at literally every level than I am. And then John, during COVID, started his show. He asked me to be the co-host of it. At the time, it was called the Johnny and Gene Show. We did quite well for a couple years. Then he moved to Tampa, Florida, and then came back to the Northeast. And then we started doing our show again. and here we are today. And it's been a very interesting way to develop a relationship with somebody I would have never thought to develop such relationships with. That's my opinion. What's your take on it? Because I've never asked you that.
Well, here's the difference in generations, and everybody will understand for the younger people. Felix invited me over to dinner with his family, his friends. I showed up. I was the only one standing there. And I said, Felix, what's going on? Where is everybody? He goes, oh, we're going to do dinner by Zoom. So I knew right there and then. I says, all right, we definitely got a different age group here.
This is not a true story.
But you know what? When I first met him, I started, and people asked, how did I pick Felix to become partners with me, co-host in this genre? You know, because it's supposed to be a criminal. It started off as a criminal mob genre, and he interested people in crime and some of the things that happened in my life and other people's lives. And I want to show the contrast of somebody that's educated, that's young, who has an opportunity at doing the right thing in life and being successful, and that's him. And if you want to be a dummy and follow some of the stuff that I used to do, you have a life that's, suffering, detachment from family, and it's not a good life. So for the guys that are glorifying in the movies and people that watch The Godfather or Goodfellas or The Bronx Tale or any of these Sopranos, any of these movies, those are movies. That's not really reality of life, and I wanted to bring that to the younger generation to show them the difference. If you do something, if you go to work, you work hard, you go to school, you get educated, you end up like him with a successful future, sitting up on a stage doing the right thing with a good family, and that's the difference, and that's the reason why we became friendly, because he did what my sons are doing, where I'm proud of them. They work hard, they go to school, they go to work, and they do the right thing with life. And it's a journey, and because of some people that's in the audience here today, they helped me in that journey. And some of them were ex-law enforcement who helped me along the way to help me to get my life right. So I owe them I got to thank them and tell them really giving me that opportunity to have another life, which I do have now.
So if I told you, we were talking about 2005, when I was in recess and you were in a different type of recess. If I told you then that, I guess now 18 years later, you'd be sitting on a stage doing a live podcast, what would you have told me?
I don't think I would have told you anything, because you weren't going to be in Brazil. Come see me in those jails. This is, listen, to have the opportunity, and that's why I'm so aggressively out there talking against the mob, against the guys that try to glorify that life. It's a life of pain that I'll suffer for the rest of my life without joking, because there's consequences in my life from the past that carry me on to today. I can't change that. The only thing I can do is kind of move forward the way we're doing and bring you to show the other contrast of doing the right thing. And hopefully we reach and we get a hold of a lot of young kids that are on the street that seem to have it wrong like I did, and maybe we could change their direction, which we've helped a lot of kids, and hopefully we continue to help a lot of kids.
So chronologically speaking, right, and we're going to give some background for people who aren't familiar with intimate details, you grew up in one of the worst neighborhoods in New York City.
Parts of it, but I got involved in the parts that were the worst of the city.
Woodhaven.
For the people that want to do the right thing in life, and the people that grew up in Woodhaven, we know that we grew up on Jamaica Avenue outside East New York where there was drugs. We grew up in the Dome where there was drugs. We grew up where there was violence, gangsters in Ozone Park and our adjoining neighborhoods. And if you wanted to take the shortcut like I did, you put a gun in your hand, you put a bag of drugs in your pocket, and you go out and try to take the shortcut. But the problem with the shortcut is it doesn't exist. There is no such thing as a shortcut. That shortcut's going to bring you a lot of pain. You're going to end up getting stabbed up. You're going to get shot up. You're going to lose all your friends. They're going to betray you, deceive you, and that's the reality of that world. And that's the world we're trying to bring, or I'm trying to bring to everybody and with you.
So you're looking at a lot of lovely people that
I can't really see what all these likes, to be honest with you.
But at what point did you know that you had made a mistake?
the mistake doesn't really resonate.
So you're
The violence, because the money's coming in. And when the money's coming in, you're blinded by money. You're blinded by the belief that you're successful because you're measuring it by the things that you gather, whether it's houses like I did, businesses like I did, nightclubs like I did, beautiful cars like I did, woman like I did, right? Well, we could stop at the woman like I did. But, that's all false. It's not anything that is going to be long-lasting. And it's everything that's in your life is fake until you realize and you wake up and you say, I need to change that. And the only way you're going to need to change is when you hit rock bottom. And when you hit rock bottom, your eyes open wide and you say, who are these people I'm involved with? What happened to the real Johnny Alite, the guy that was the nice guy playing sports and working out and growing up with good kids? And you start understanding that you made so many mistakes and you wish you could get them back.
When was rock bottom for you?
When I was sitting in the penitentiary in Brazil, no doubt. You're in a third world country. You're going to the bathroom on the floors, in the holes. It's raining inside. You're sleeping in a cell with 54 guys, 56 guys, with no lights, spigot water to shower out of, eating food that's infested with mice shit, rats.
Enjoy your dinner.
Continue. So that reality hits you when you're sitting in those situations, and your so-called friends that one of the guys here can tell you better than most. They're buddy, I love you, and they're all betraying you. So that's the reality of that world. Anybody that says anything different is lying to a young kid.
So, and we were kind of going over some chronological details earlier, but the first time you got locked up was how old?
I got locked up in 83, 84 in California, 87 in Long Island, Nassau County. All violence, all guns. Again in 89, back in 90 again, went to prison 91, got out, went back to prison 92, court cases in 94 and 95. Went back to prison 96, got out the end of 99, got violated, caught another case. Went back to jail in 2001, 2002. Went on a run in 2003, got caught in Brazil in 2004. Got out of prison in about 2013 and lost my whole life to prison.
Did you ever think in between those stints, maybe I should change something up?
No, if I had a half a brain, yeah, but obviously I missed something in school there. So this is a psychologist who's a friend of mine. It's here. Eileen, are you around here? So, so people will tell you, you want to kid yourself. You want to lie to yourself, and that's the problem with that world. You lie to yourself, and it wasn't like that I wasn't educated. I was educated. I went to college. I wasn't like the average guy. I did pass a Series 7. I was a stockbroker's license. I had a full ride scholarship to baseball in the University of Tampa. I had opportunities, but the pile of gold was in front of my face, and I was greedy, and I went for that first. I took the shortcut.
Do you remember the first time you saw that pile of gold that you wanted to, that was right in front of you that you could reach and touch?
Well, I was raised with very famous guys. I was raised with Charlie Luciano from, everybody hears about Lucky Luciano. His first cousin was one of my father's partners. They used to call him Blackie, Gambino guy, made guy. I was raised with another guy, Al Greco, who just came home. He did about 30 years from the Lucchese and later on the Genovese family from the North Jersey crew. So I grew up with some really famous gangsters, Fat Andy Ruggiano, who was around Albert Anastasia. His kids were my baseball coach. So unfortunately, that's my role models, and they were the wrong role models.
Did you ever think that what they were doing, were you certain that what they were doing was good? Or it was just the only path? Or did you know that there were alternative routes that you could find success in? Because the thing that I always find interesting about John, and I've gotten to know him well over the years, is somebody who's acutely aware of people and surprisingly very intelligent. And I think that you knew, I'm complimenting you, shit.
That was a backhanded compliment, don't you think?
Well, no, because you think...
You just look stupid, but you're not that smart.
As stupid as you look.
That's what he said. Not my words.
Thanks, Jim.
Is...
Hey, John, how are you?
is you had opportunities, and I don't know if you knew that. Like, I know you know it now, but did you at that point know that you could actually go a different way?
Yeah, you have opportunities. I know I'm not a dummy. I know most guys on the street, unlike what people say in the projection of the movies, they make them look like they're intelligent. Listen, 99% of them are dummies. And that's the truth about the street. They're not too intelligent. So to rise in the mob or to rise in the street, you just got to be half-witted and you can get, very successful. But to rise in a legitimate world, you got to work hard. And the problem is guys don't want to work hard. They want to take that shortcut thinking that shortcut's going to get them where they want and they think they're going to be successful. It's a dream, right? And that dream eventually is going to turn into that nightmare. You're always going to pay the price for living that life. And it just depends on when that's going to come.
Is the only time that you figured that out when you were sitting in a 6x8 cell? 6x8 too, by the way, is what? For people that don't know, a solitary confinement cell is what, the size of this carpet?
Yeah, basically the size of this carpet. But it's not the cell. It's, you adjust to the cell, believe it or not. It's the things that everybody doesn't see outside the cell. Physical, when you get hurt, and I've been stabbed up, and I've been battered, and I've been all through all those things, that physical pain's okay. It's the mental pain of not growing up with your kids that are next to me. Not spending the time with a daughter that most of you know I lost my daughter this year. So those are the things that you regret that you can never get back. Was the money worth that stuff? Of course not. So if somebody's really truthful and true to themselves, they got to say, everything I did, I wish I can get it back. You can't. And then you have to make amends for it somehow. And depending on who the person is, how much you really want to be true to yourself, you'll make amends. I have great respect, and people know I have great respect for law enforcement. I didn't start off that way. I hated law enforcement. I was raised to hate them. I was raised to think they were the enemy. And I talk a lot about some of the people that saved my life over the years and the people that stood with me when I needed them most. And some of them are here today, and I always say the same thing. They don't realize how much they helped my life turn around. So if it wasn't for those same guys that I despised growing up, because I was, and I hate to use excuses because there is no excuses. I believe it's my own actions. I was brainwashed in it, but I let myself be brainwashed. So for the people that want to take that route and blame others, well, I'm not taking that route. I never will. So it's my choices, bad choices, terrible choices, and now we're here where we are today, and hopefully that, again, we can continue to help some other kids.
So speaking of, and we're going to make this a very interactive show, so don't you guys worry. We have somebody in the crowd, an ex-FBI agent, and don't worry, we vetted him before that he can come up, who, you'll have to correct me. He
knows I'm nuts.
Well, yeah, it's obvious. That prosecuted you, or...
No.
You know who I'm talking about.
He's not a prosecutor.
He's an ex-FBI agent.
He's an agent, work cases, knows... there's a detective sitting here also that knows me very well as on both sides, as a friend and as a guy that investigated me.
Who do you want to start with?
You're the host.
Let's get Mr. Ted Otto up here. It's a good-looking suit, Mr. Ted. Now, you know him a little better than I do. Will you give a little bit of he's coming up. You see him? Right there. There's a little box over here if you want to. Give a little bit.
It's hard to see with these lights. I wish I could sing a little bit. I'd sing for you, but I'm terrible.
John, will you give a little bit of an introduction, because you know him far better than I do, on your relationship and a little bit about Mr. Otto?
So over the years, there were different agencies that obviously were investigating me, chasing me, trying to lock me up. And Ted Otto was one of the guys who was very active in the New York area, one of probably the top agents, I would say, that I ran in against. And multiple. Obviously, I moved around from internationally to domestic, and he knows me and everybody in probably in the city and other cities pretty well in this lifestyle.
So, Ted, back in the day, what was your first introduction to Mr. Alite?
I first heard of John in the early 1990s. I was involved in a completely different family in a different part of the city.
Just put the mic a little closer.
And John had a ferocious reputation. But I wasn't involved I wasn't a Gambino agent. I was doing other things. But he's, anyone who worked in the New York office, specifically organized crime, knew of John. And I guess our careers drifted. And then many years later, in 2000, John was extradited from Brazil the end of 2006. Six.
Correct.
Stop correcting.
All right, sorry.
And then I was explaining to someone earlier this evening that John was indicted in the Middle District of Florida on a racketeering case, organized crime, obviously. Pardon me. And working organized crime is very, very difficult to do if you're not doing it in New York, because there's a culture to it, there's an institutional knowledge to it, and it's difficult to work the cases in Tampa. I'm not entirely sure why the case was indicted down there, but it was. There was a lot of pushing and shoving between prosecutors' offices and the Tampa and the New York office. I think it was the spring of '07, there was a lot of yelling going on, and I'm not a yeller, so my supervisor asked me to go down and see if I could turn the volume down. When I met him, I was expecting to encounter this kind of baleful, menacing brute, knuckle dragging, because that's who, when I first learned of him, that's what I thought I was about to meet, or whom I was about to meet. And I was very, very surprised from the very, very beginning at how soft-spoken he was. And he impressed me that, he was articulate, as I said, soft-spoken, and it was just, there was a certain way about him that I found endearing, I suppose. And over the years, we were able to kind of, for lack of a better term, wrest control of John as a and the cases themselves from Tampa, and they were brought back up here. And when I first met him, we embarked on what is now a 16-year friendship. It was.
Did you ever have any qualms or hesitations about befriending somebody with this past?
No, I mean, it's no offense. It's in that line of, I don't, you'll understand. In that line of work, you are required to dance with the devil. It's you have to. It's the mob. It's a secret society, and unless you have the insiders, you're not going to be able to make cases. So, over the course of almost 34 years, you sit down with some very bad people, but the friendship, it wasn't from day one. You have to go in there and with an aspect of you have to be defensive. You don't want a friendship to compromise John's status as a witness. So, the friendship developed, and then once John was essentially through testifying and he had been sentenced, he was finishing, he was going to run through his sentence and be released from jail. That's when I felt more comfortable becoming friendlier with John.
Now, I think a lot of us would agree in here, a friendship is built on trust to a certain degree, I'd hope. How do you trust an individual like this and, truly call him, at what point do you call him your friend?
I couldn't tell you the moment, the day, the year. You're right, friendship, one of the aspects of friendship, important aspects, is trust. But John impressed me very, very early on as someone I could trust, setting aside the professional stuff, because when John testified, there were, I'd say 200, 250 investigative reports on various topics that he had provided us. I think I wrote them all. So I knew what he had done. It was obvious to me that he was sincere about embracing a second chance in life. So I think it was that opportunity to the extent I did help you, it was that opportunity to help you really embrace that second chance in life.
John, for you, what's your gauge on how this relationship developed? And for you, speaking of trust, how do you trust somebody? You know, the whole part of being in the life is that you don't trust the government or anybody affiliated. How do you, embrace Ted as a friend?
Well, for me, it was fairly, Ted's, for the people, obviously, he's not a street guy. He's very intelligent, intellectual. And I grew up on the street, so I know when someone's trying to manipulate me and handle me. I had dozens of mob so-called friends and bosses that were supposed to believe in the life that betrayed the life, which helped me along the way of saying to myself, I'm being betrayed. I'm not anybody's sucker, so here I am, and I'm open to hear the conversations. The thing that I developed with Ted was a slow process of being able to see a back and forth between him, different people that were talking to me. Can I trust them? Are they being honest to me? Are they going to give me a life sentence anyway? Is it, because this is on a slow process. And at the same time, for the people that don't understand, he knows better than most. I'm not like most guys talking about I was very violent. That was my life. That's what I did in that life. And that's what gave me the credibility in the street, I guess, or the level of confidence I had with other street guys because I was violent. With Ted, it was something different. It had to be my personality of him trusting that I'm being honest, truthful. They're going to check what I was doing, if it was truthful or not. And then I started looking at him and saying, this is a guy that's got integrity. This is a guy that has my life in his hands if I do the right thing. If I'm not like my old friends that you're dealing with cobras and snakes. And I had to start to understand that my life has got to turn in a different direction now. And for that to happen, I had to build my own personal trust and relationship with Ted, even though he didn't know I was doing that. But he's seen the real me. The people that don't understand the real me, he knows I'm nuts. I mean, when people say, oh, he seems normal, he's seen the emotional side, the crying side, the hypochondriac side, the side that I divulge to people that other people probably won't. That I say that, the suffering that goes on inside emotionally, and it's not physical pain. Physical pain's easy. Dealing with guys in penitentiaries, in jails, and stabbing them and fighting them, and that's the easy part for me. The emotional part was the difficult part that I had to deal with. And that's losing family members, losing, later on my daughter, losing family that were killed on the street and things, and that I had to confide with Ted, and I had to start trusting him, which he knows what I'm saying. There was days he was not only an agent, he started to be my friend, and I confided in some of the emotional problems I was having, which is not an easy thing to do because your whole life you're looking at him as the enemy.
Ted, how do you feel like this system in general in this country is set up to reintegrate an individual like this into society?
I don't understand your question.
Like, do you think that it's the system right now is create, like, a lot of people, as we just heard, I was in and out for 20 years, right? And so at what point do the government agencies have trust that an individual like this can go back and be a functional member of society? And do you think that this, the agencies that are set up and the facilities and the practices that are put in place enable somebody like this to do so easily, or is it particularly difficult?
This may not answer your question, but John's decision to embrace that second chance was his decision. But in terms of like the overall picture, that decision, that embrace of a second chance in life has to be John's. We worked with over the years, and I worked with some great people. We encountered a number of people who were afforded second chances and really screwed them up pretty badly. One guy in particular, he was just, I don't curse, so you'll get my point. He was a screw up.
Fuck him.
And it was, he tried, he just couldn't do it. He was unable to do it.
It was, let me clarify for everybody. It was very easy for me to be, I believed in the loyalty of that life, which didn't exist. So when I was involved in that life, when someone asked me to go hurt somebody, take their life, do certain work, I did it without question. And then I started realizing those guys I was being loyal to aren't loyal back. So when the opportunity with these guys, meaning Ted, the agency, offered me opportunity, a second chance, it's like an alcoholic. I've said it over and over again. You got to work at it. And that's why a lot of guys fail at it. Because the easy part for me is, and he knows and Jim knows, is for me to go out and behave the same way I used to. It was very easy for me to be violent when I wanted to be. I didn't need other guys to do that. But I wanted something better for my life. I wanted to look in the mirror and say, I like myself. I don't hate myself like I used to. And when they opened the door for that opportunity, I took that opportunity and I said, this gives me the chance to change my life and be loyal to the people I should be loyal to. Society and guys like Ted and Jim and other guys that were open their hands to me over the years and said, if you're a gentleman, we'll give you that opportunity. And I never look back at it anymore. You know, you sometimes you're frustrated, but the opportunity of a second chance to be with my family, with my sons, with my grandson, it's not worth hurting anybody or doing any of that stupid things I used to do, and especially as you get older, you learn a little bit more.
Ted, thank you so much for coming up and talking to us. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Felix, now I know how those sailors felt in Pearl Harbor in December of '41. So thanks for that.
Give a hand for Ted Otto, please. That was my first time meeting him, too.
Yeah.
Seconds in. Speaking of family, we have some beautiful sons over here.
Wait. Let me just clarify. That guy's not mine. Get out of the way.
And I think, so I've met a couple of your sons over the years and that have become friends of mine as well now. And I think the first thing that struck me is to have a dad not just not be present, but then also be, who you were, is a hard thing to grow up with. And I think what amazed me the most when I first met your children is truly how great of people they are. And, the way that you guys have worked on your relationship, at least from, when we had Johnny on our show a little while back, has been remarkable to a sense. But I think that there's a lot of work that you guys did, and Johnny, if you don't mind coming up here, we'll talk to you for a second, but, come on over here.
Nice to be
You
back.
look good.
Yeah, thanks. I gotta keep up with the guy next to me.
He's getting married in a few months. Give him a round of applause for that. I guess the first question is, at what point did you realize who Dad was?
Oh. So, it doesn't hit you, right? And I think we went over this a little bit in the podcast as well. So, you don't realize when you're young, right? You're just, like he said, you're naive, you're going through the motions, you're living in the neighborhood, you're a normal kid. Somebody comes up, shakes your hand, gives you $100, put it in your pocket, tell your father I said hello. All right, no problem.
Sounds like a good life to
Ma,
me.
we got a tab at the deli. This guy's giving me $100. I don't understand. So,
Give me my 50.
There's the mobster in him.
shakedown comes. So, in all reality, to be honest with you, it didn't really hit me until the whole Brazil thing. You don't realize how serious it is until he's on the front page of the paper and you don't realize, and you're like, what the hell is going on? And
How old were you at that point?
I was probably 15 or 16, and I'll never forget it. It was just like straight out of a movie. From flying out to Tampa, sitting with Mr. Ted Otto when everything first happened. It's like a blur, but it's not, and you don't realize that reality really hits you until afterwards. And now, as I've gotten older, you really realize what you were sunken into at that point in time. You don't realize how deep you are.
So even before that, right? Because for people to get a little bit of context, the fact that John went to jail in Brazil was because he was on the run. Now, I'll let maybe John explain what on the run looks like so you guys get a little bit of context. What does being one of, the most wanted criminals in this country and being on the run actually look like before we go back to Johnny?
Not a good place. When you see at the top of your paperwork, United States government against you, you got some trouble. So it's, listen, again, people love the movies, and it's not a movie. When you got bosses wearing wires, and I've talked about this over countless podcasts for the people that watch our shows. It's not my opinion of the mafia, but you have guys like Joe Messina, the boss, he's wearing a wire. You have every boss in every family cooperating. This loyalty that people try to sell to young kids, it just doesn't exist. Life's about self-preservation, family preservation, and when you choose that life over your own family, obviously you're not thinking properly. And when these guys were cooperating one after another, different made guys from different crews, every families, and I left my family behind, and I was a very successful businessman, legal and illegal. I owned a dozen or more properties, nightclubs, parking companies. I lost it all. Parking company, 17.6 million. I lost a nightclub making $3-4 million a year, and an estate that is worth about 10 million today. You start realizing you sold your soul for a dollar bill, and the people that you're being loyal to just don't exist. So I went from one country to another, from Cuba to Africa to Colombia. I had cartel friendships in Colombia and around the world, and Denmark and different areas, and I hid in about 20 different countries and moved money around. At the same time, years are going by without my family. And you're sacrificing your family for your life, and that's not the physical end of it. Like I said, physical pain is something we all can deal with. It's the mental pain and the emotional and the scars that are going to continue for a lifetime. And you're always going to have to pay that price.
Did you tell your family when you were preparing to go on the run?
No, the only conversation I had was my kids. I kissed them goodbye at night. I said, Daddy's got to go, and he'll be in touch with you. I took about 10 or 15 phone booth numbers, gave them to my father. He's the only one I told I was leaving. And I said, we'll have a coordination of phone booths and days that I'll call. I'll give you a number for each one of them. So I listed them from it was 1 to 20. And I'll tell you when you go to one, what's the next time I'll call the other one, so we can have contact, so I can get messages how my family was doing.
Did part of you feel like a coward for leaving your family without saying anything?
No, I believed that I was financially taking care of my family when I was on the run, and that I was being a loyal soldier to a nonsense organization that everybody's full of shit. Most of them are cowards, like I said. Most of them don't do any of the physical stuff. Most of them are cooperating, or if they get the opportunity, they're ratting, or they're informants on the side. It's not what people understand or believe, and they can all talk that game, but like most of these guys in law enforcement they know the truth about these guys. And, it took me a long time to wake up to it and understand there's more to life than that. And it's these relationships I built with my kids and still building with my sons and new ones that this life's really about.
Johnny, did you have resentment towards him for the way that he left?
Oh, yeah.
The mic.
That was a ping pong for a while, because you got to remember, I not to say I grew up on the street, but the people that he worked with, I'm now with their sons. So, and their sons you're talking 10 years older than me, and So things that I was involved with or around in sports and people I'm around are now start to diminish and fall away, and you keep an arm's length. People don't know what's going on. So around that time was when the resentment really started, because you don't understand why. Because why'd you do that, right? Again, you refer back to the movies. So you just like the movies. Why'd you do that? It doesn't make sense. You're this, you're that. As you get older, you realize the situation he was in and why he did what he did and how he handled it. You can't, and then you grow up, right? You're not stuck in that. You don't respect the people that you used to respect because of the life that they came from. Again, you start to learn, and you get older. You're in college, you're in school, you're around different people. I moved to a place like New Jersey, and you start to learn about normalcy, people that want to be educated, right? The guy that owns the restaurant, the lawyer, the doctor, not the guy that you think you got to be tough in order to get the respect from the people. When you start to expose yourself to different people and success, like he talks about, gentlemen like yourself, your parents, psychiatry, you start to realize that you can gain that respect without having to be a tough guy, without doing something illegal.
But how do you let go of the resentment towards?
We beat the shit out of each other.
That's true.
So, no, the only way to let go of any of that is to let it out, right? So whether you let it out willingly or on accident because you're angry at each other, you let it out, right? So we wound up moving in together almost immediately, whereas I'm the man of the house. Now he's the man of the house because he moved home. So now we're like this. Well, I'm leaving. Okay, so leave. Figure it out. I leave. Can't figure it out. You come back. You fight again. But it gets to a point where you beat it out of each other in a way. Don't get me wrong. We're not physically beating each other up, but you're mad at each other. You curse at each other, whatever. We're nose to nose. We fight. We argue. We leave. We come back. Then next day, we're going out together. We have a drink. Right? You have dinner. Then the next problem comes. So it's almost like it's a cycle of a catch-up in order to get all that fighting out that we were supposed to do all these years, right? I'm learning what a father is. I'm learning how to be a man. So stupid me, always getting in trouble, and him coming home, what are you doing? You want to fight? Get you in a fight every day if you want. You like to fight? Okay, no problem. We'll go to the club every night, and I guarantee you I get you in a fight. What are you going to do? You getting paid for this? I'm not getting paid for it. All right, so you're just causing yourself issues. Stop. Okay, no problem. At first, it wasn't no problem, right? You resent, you fight, you figure it out, and you move on.
What's the conversation like with your siblings when he's away? Is it, resentment towards dad? Is it...
Everybody hates dad, unfortunately, right? So me being me, do what I got from the little guy. Not little anymore, he's bigger than me.
You're going to get a beat when you go home for that.
The older brother.
Don't hit him when he goes home.
The older brother's crazy. We all know that, right? So you do the best that you can to keep everybody together to have some type of positive outlook. Unfortunately, the thing that kept us close was the resentment towards him, in a way, for those years, right? So we had something to relate to. We had different lifestyles, but we had something to come together to, like, can't believe he did this. Then when he comes home, like I said, it's just a completely different atmosphere when he comes home, because now he's making up for that, right? Sits with you. He wants to be there. He's learning how to be a father as well, but not a father to a gentleman that he watched grow up. He's learning to be a father for a guy that raised himself already. So now he has to figure out where he could fit himself in that piece. And he did. And to me, I think we have an amazing relationship after all the years, right? There's a point in time where we didn't talk for a little while. And then we come back and we rekindled again. It's almost like a flower, in a way. It dies, you rebuild it back up, it might die again, and then you build it back up and just get stronger every time.
Was there ever one moment where you felt like you had finally let go of 100% of the resentment?
Now, absolutely. It's, for the most part, it's just completely gone.
And you're getting married soon. I know you want to be a father one day. What's the mentality, having grown up with John as your father, towards how you want to raise your children?
when he was around, I remember the way we were raised and certain things that we did and morals and values. I would probably do the same. The way we grew up tough, grew up hard, work hard, drills, sports, school. He always drilled that in our head. It's just a matter of what you see, right? So the only thing I would do differently is continue to teach as he taught, but not let them see what we saw.
I appreciate you opening up in front of a crowd. Please give a hand for John. I want to talk about, and Johnny made a reference to him. John has another son, Jimmy, who's incarcerated. What has that been like for you, to having been incarcerated for a nearly 2 decades, to then have one of your sons be incarcerated now?
You know, listen, obviously I'm going to take a lot of responsibility for my son being in jail because I wasn't around. And when you're not around, there's insecurities that develop, and they go the wrong way, out of anger issues maybe, you know, I don't know, I wasn't there. And they make mistakes and you're trying to catch up. And as a parent, nobody wants to see the kid suffer. And him going to jail and him losing his sister, my daughter, those are things that are going to be forever painful. There is no getting over those things. And I'm lucky that my sons here have it together a little more, obviously. So when people are talking about the street and I talk, you know, and people know that, listen to me, I'm very aggressive against the guys on the street because I know, like I said, 99% of them are just, they're cowards. They're not guys that were out there really doing what they're trying to pretend that they're doing and letting people think. And that's no merit badge to do those things as it is, but they're selling it to the next kid. And then the next kid ends up like my son that's in jail, or my daughter that passed away. And those are the things that happen when you're on the street. Bad things happen only. And, you know, and those bad things don't go away because I just changed my life. They're going to stay with us for life because those situations just don't diminish or change just because I decided, okay, now I want to change my life. Those are the consequences you got to live with forever. And, you know, most people, I don't know how their religious stand is. I became very faithful. I get my strength from going to church, talking to God, asking for that strength. And hopefully I give that strength to my son when he comes home, and these guys help him to get his life right. Because without that, you're going to have pain in your life. And I think that's going to be the constant message, constantly. You know, you're going to talk stories. Everybody likes the stories. And, you know, they're great. Some of those times I had, I can't say were all bad. They were fun. I mean, obviously, you're jet-setting all over the place and, you know, those things. But overall, it's nonsense. You can do it the legitimate way. You don't have to do it that way. So, and for the loyal friends I have, and I have quite a few, really, I should be happy for, that grew up with me since kids. They didn't go into that life. My friend Steven's here with his wife, Antoinette, and, you know, they've been great friends of mine my whole life. And, you know, people like that you're going to have that you met, and you keep those relationships. That's the real world. You know, the fake world I used to live in is the treachery and the disloyalty and the phoniness and all that stuff that I could say, every bad word I could say with that life. That life is nothing about anything good. And it's the only thing I could keep, you know, reiterating.
From a personal relationship standpoint, romantic level, you were married. What's the conversation with a partner like when you're in the mafia? Do they know everything that you're doing? Does it create tensions? Obviously, later on when you go to jail, that's another point of contention. how do you handle love and crime?
Trying to tell me to give everybody love advice, relationship advice.
Don't worry, that'll be next.
I'm going to just tell you one thing. God couldn't give girls the right advice because God has given
That wasn't in
women.
the script.
Well, you just got to say it. I mean, women know this already, right?
Uh-oh.
God has created beautiful women. They change their eyebrows after you give them perfect eyebrows. They put Botox in their lips. They change that.
Jesus Christ.
They change their shape, their body. So if God can't do it, we can't do it.
Listen to this guy. Anywho.
So no, listen. There is nobody that, when you're in that life, there is no normal relationship. It just doesn't exist because everything's a lie for whoever you're involved with. And for women to be able to put up with that, they're living a lie themselves, and it's just a terrible existence. So anybody that's involved in that life, woman, man, female, their kids, it's just nothing but a bad existence.
Do you feel bad about what you put your romantic partners through?
I mean, listen,
Say yes.
No. I can't say yes.
I'm literally handing
I'm going to tell you
someone a
why
silver
I
platter
can't.
here.
No, I can't say yes. I say that, this is what I'll say. Every one of us that got involved in that life knew what we were getting involved with. And I regret my past, but I can't change my past. So I just got to accept it and move each day forward. There's nothing I could do about that past that was there. It's just there. I've already done with the things I've done. I wish I didn't. And the same with the woman. They made choices with me back then. They knew I wasn't a banker. They made bad choices.
That's quote of the evening right there. They knew I wasn't a banker.
So, it's the same thing. At a young age, we all make bad decisions.
Who's single here? Make some noise. Who's in a relationship here? Who's in a situationship here? You, miss. What's your name? Lisa. You want to come up here for a second? Oh, you're not. Oh.
Hey, Mark, how are you, by the way?
Oh, that's her husband? Shit.
Yeah.
That's not going to be fun. Who wants a little relationship advice from the guru himself? No one?
I gave good advice just now.
Oh, that was terrible. You want some?
Does anybody disagree? Listen.
No, I think we'll... Asa, you want to come up here? Asa, come up here for a second. Please, give me... This is one of the kindest, smartest people I've known, and I've known her for about 10, 15 years now. Where you go around? Come here, Asa. Give a round of applause for Asa. Come chat.
Ooh,
Now, I actually think...
it is very daunting up here.
Asa, I think, now I'm very happy to have you on stage. Completely not planned, by the way. Because you have a very trained insight into the psyche of perhaps individuals like the man to my left.
Don't make me risk my license tonight.
No, we won't. Will you give a little bit of background about yourself so that people are more familiar?
Sure. So I'm a psychotherapist by training. My specialty is social and deviant behavior, mostly. Substance use and mental health disorders. So, but I've recently switched over to HR. So,
Thank God.
Asa, when you hear John speak, what are some of from the trained perspectives? What are some of the things that first come to mind?
I came up here for my love life.
Oh, we get into that after. Don't worry, I got you. But I'm curious. I'm putting you on the spot. I know, and Ace is a great friend of mine as well. But I really am curious. What goes through your head from a psychological perspective? No filter.
I mean, there are various things that came out. Like, I loved the fact that his censor here supported him. I think that, to me, indicates a level of...
I paid them $100 each to show up.
No, but there was a genuineness to the interactions and an honesty that was in interactions with John III. Yes, and Dad, and that to me really spoke volumes. You know, I think everyone has a trajectory in their lives. We all have a past. You can't have a story or history without a past, and regardless of what that past is, how people interact with you tells that story about the credibility of those relationships. And I definitely saw something really genuine in that interaction. I also felt a level of like pain when you spoke about your son who's still incarcerated. And while I hear you like own in that, you know, there is a level of, I'm hoping that there's a level of perspective that you're having as well, that you don't have to always carry all of the baggage of the things that you've done in the past. There has to be a place where you own the things that you own, and then behaviors that other people own, that's their behavior as well.
John, do you feel like do you feel like you've been able to get to the point where you completely own the behaviors of the past?
Oh, yeah. Listen, my biggest problem is getting over the guilt of my behaviors of the past. You know, I own it without a doubt. The problem is try to get past it. And when I talk to different people, whether it's a priest, whether it's a therapist, whether it's a good friend, they told me the same thing I just said earlier. I can't change the past. I can accept my actions, but I got to move forward. So I try to move forward and understand that one of the reasons I talk to young kids is so they understand when their actions will carry something for the rest of their lives, whether they understand that or not. And even if you want to accept them, which I accept, I don't blame my father for my life. I don't blame anybody. They were my choices. But they're my choices also that had to hurt my kids. And there's no way to take that back. You know, so, and, you know, I understand that. I just got to be able to live with it now.
Yeah.
Asa, do you see similarities between individuals like this that are incarcerated dealing with their children and non-incarcerated, unpresent parents that are dealing with their children? And how do you feel like John matches on that spectrum?
So there are definitely a lot of similarities, and I actually worked a lot with federal probationers and the reentry folks and those types of things, and that reintegration at a reentry with a relationship. That's why I love the conversation that you're having with the FBI. Is he single,
Mr.
by
Ted
the way?
Otto?
Is he single, by the way? Just ask him.
Yo, let's have some fun.
That's why I came here.
Hey, good-looking gentleman,
I feel better changing this to the dating game.
Let's go. This is what I'm here for. We'll set that up after, Mr. Ted.
Jim's raising his hand.
So that's queen shit right there. Yo, shoot your shot on stage.
Just putting it out there. No, but there are a lot of there.
I love your shit.
You're making me hot. There are a lot of those.
He was with Ted.
He was. Yes. I think the parent and child relationships, especially absent parents, happens in multiple different forms. You know, absenteeism can be physical absence. It could be emotional absence. It also could be, you know, other types of absence like death and those sort of things. And so I think that loss and that space of grieving for that relationship is really impactful on how the child develops into adulthood. And so I do see a lot of similarities, you know, with parents who are away and they're incarcerated. There's some of them that are able to have contact with their children and grow. Like I think of, for example, Jamie Foxx, for example, grew up with his dad behind bars. He never visited his father while his father was in prison, but sort of had the the image of who his dad was in those early formative years and how his dad molded him and the lessons that he learned to carry him through to the point when his dad was released was like, when you come out, I've got a situation and I'm going to set you up when you come out with me, but I can't see you behind bars. So I think it really depends on who you were as a parent before you went into prison, and then also what your life in prison was before when you came out as well, and how that relationship is going to work. And there's a level of emotional intelligence that has to happen with all parties involved. It has to happen with the parents and their willingness to actually do the work and be emotionally vulnerable, be able to be present and own some of the things that you own, and be able to feel and experience the pain and the hurt that your children and those things will happen, and process it with them. And I think if you don't do that, then it actually leads to a lot of deleterious relationships.
So you were saying you've worked in these federal reentry, probation, whatever I forget the exact terminology, but basically, correct me if I'm wrong, that's helping former inmates reintegrate back into society?
Yeah.
When you're dealing with an individual that was particularly violent, what is, from a psychological perspective, the ways that you best help them integrate as a normal... Huh? What is the ways that you best help them become a normal member of society and not go back to that life?
So here's the thing that I've actually learned from one of my former patients is that the reason that people use violence and force and fear and intimidation is it was actually effective. Like, you got the shit that you wanted to get because of your, like, if you wanted, like, to rob a bank, you're not going to go in and be like, please, can you kindly give me some money? Like, you're gonna, like, you used violence to actually solve a problem. And so what happens with my clients, what I have to do with them is create other systems of getting things that they actually wanted and reinforce those positive behavior. So it's not about just telling them, like, don't be violent, because sometimes you can be angry, you can be explosive and those things, and that's just a way of you processing your emotions and feelings. But if you find other ways and other methodology of dealing with your problems that doesn't have the negative consequences of the violence, that actually makes it effective.
Now, we don't even have the time to ask you more of this, but talk to me about your dating life for real, because it's clear that you wanted some advice.
That's what I came up here. I had a situationship.
Since you heard his beautiful advice earlier.
I gave good advice. He cut me off.
Yeah, what was the advice?
I was saying
Come
God
on.
made women that are perfect. They're beautiful. But they keep changing his beautiful.
Tell me more. I'm
up
perfect.
Right there. Shut up right there. just you're doing well with the first sentence. What was the advice that you were looking for, Asa?
I think... So I know a lot of, what he was talking about is some women go into those relationships knowing the person that they're dealing with, right? I have a thing for bad boys.
Uh-oh. What do you think? Okay. So is this, how do I not be attracted to bad boys?
It's like, how do I find a reformed bad boy?
You're sitting next to one. But shit, I'll let you come back here. Yeah, I don't trust you. John? Answers?
Okay, what's the question? You made me nervous, guy.
What do you think? Well, I'm curious because I think in general, a lot of people find themselves attracted to bad things. You're the psychologist here. What is it about the bad boy or bad girl side that people get attracted to?
It's excited. I mean, no one likes to, I like looking at a Hallmark movie here and there and, seeing the love story in the end. But it's never the boring guy always has to have an edge still for the girl to actually fall in love with him. But in the end, you are still like, the one that she dumped, You know, there was something about him that still had a little bit of a twinkle, you know? Like either he was cuter, he was the better football player, like something about that was still very attractive. So how do you sort of know like how much of, you know, like what are some the red flags of the bad guys to avoid, and the reform ones, what are the green flags to kind of look for?
Adrenaline rush. You know what? Seriously, I talk about that all the time. You just got to find a positive way of adrenaline rushes. Mm-hmm. So I said join a bowling team. Mark bowling.
See, I pick up golfing the other day because I'm like,
that's
maybe.
Boring. I can't do the bowling.
Anyways, Asa, I love you. Thank you for coming
love
on.
You so much.
We'll let Asa sit down for a second. We want to take some time also to open up to the audience if anybody has some. We want to finish with some Q&A. Any questions? We're going to try to find you. Gentleman over there.
John, how you know it's Charlie?
Hey, Charlie, how are you?
You know how many questions I have for you because we call each other on a regular basis. I just want to stand up and thank you.
Thank you, Charlie.
I know about John. John helped me at a very difficult time in my life and really cared to call me back. I texted him. I was having a difficult time in my life. It was over my daughter. And I escaped John's life years ago when I was a kid. But because someone hurt my daughter, I was willing to say, screw it. I had enough pensions to put in my commissary, screw it. Nobody's going to hurt my daughter. And he gave me just some very good advice. He said, if you do that, you're going to hurt the person that she loves, and she's going to hate you for the rest of your life. You got to find another way psychologically. And he helped me for the rest of my life. And I told you, John, I'll always be your friend. I'll always be your friend to be there when you need you, and call you when I think you're down and out. And I thank you for your help.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Seriously.
So I'm a friend of John's, and he stays with me once in a while. He comes to the house, and I'd like to show some of the fun stuff about John. You know, John likes to call and go, Jim, my friend Ted's going to call you. He's my boy. Take care of him. That's like the whole phone call. He expects this stranger to call you, and you're going to start jumping through hoops. And he said, well, I'm going to stop by and I'm staying over. No, I don't mind. It's just that the weird night terrors and the night spooning. It's a little weird. You know what I'm saying? Sounds a little crazy. But we stay up and talk all night, and all kidding aside, John's become a brother to me, to my friends. Ted, I've met great people through him, Ted. But it's, they've all said the same thing, and I know this life because I've worked in it. 1 in 1,000 change in their lives, and really change. You know, you've heard of Henry Hill, you've heard of Sammy Gravano, the host, you know. But again, to change that, it's got to be in your heart, and it's almost impossible to do. It's like a drug addiction. So you go back to what you know. I'm so proud of you. You're a friend. I'm proud to call my friend, a brother to me, and I know he's got a bright future ahead.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you.
This is like his wedding. All right, who's got I appreciate it. Who's got a question? Irina.
I want to say, Felix, I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
I know you here longest after your parents.
Oh, jeez.
So it's just fantastic to see you up there. I'm so proud of you. I'm curious, what have you learned about yourself in this relationship?
Thank you. I think, you know, when people ask me why I do this or why I've done this alongside John, I think the answer has changed over the years. I think in the beginning it was because we were so different, if you guys couldn't tell. Literally, we are different at every single level. Like age, not to say it, sorry.
I identify at 30 now.
Enough. Age, background, upbringing. He's been in jail he spent as many years in jail as I've basically been alive. And I think for me, I was naturally curious as to the psychology of how somebody, and I think the mafia in itself is interesting, right? Bad, but interesting. And so I think when I was young, a couple years ago, I was very interested by it. I think that it was just something that's so foreign. I think over the years, I've gotten to know him on a level that is very different. I've seen him through some of the worst moments. I saw him with the passing of his daughter. I saw him deal with a ton of different hardships, and I think that there were and getting to know him over the years, there were so many moments where he could have gone back to being a mobster, and it's extremely hard, especially the way that he's told me, to stay away from that life when you come out of jail. And for as imperfect as he is, I've only known him in this second life that he's had. And for somebody who got betrayed at literally every level, and obviously betraying himself, I've seen firsthand with his sons, with myself, with people that he loves, the level of care and love that he gives to people, and that's sometimes maybe, hard to believe with someone with this type of past. So, I think that for me, the real why is, I think, psychologically so interesting. To be around someone so different and to learn from those mistakes, because you're not there's, and I hate to say it this way, but like this is a, knock on wood, a lot more years, but it's a dying breed of human, right? The mafia is done the way it was, and I think that in a weird way, one day I'll be able to tell my kids, not in a proud way like Dad was this, that, the third with a mobster, but more like I had this unique experience this unique opportunity and experience in my life to get to know somebody that I would have otherwise never have known or gotten to know. And for me, it's been really quite a journey in that sense. And I think that, I've learned a lot from him through different things, not necessarily on how to do, but how to try to sometimes correct the mistakes that you made and move forward when you've made literally life-altering mistakes. And I think I can speak for him that he's learned from me on how to go about life in the right way. And I think, and he said it before, I'm not putting words in his mouth, I think in a lot of ways he wishes that he lived the life that I do, if I'm not putting words in your mouth. You agree with that?
No, of course. Anybody that, and again, anybody that's young and has an opportunity to a good life, whether it's driving a truck, you're better off doing that and going into the direction that me and some of my friends did, obviously. It's the worst direction you could possibly go into.
So I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Yo, Felix.
Big man.
It's Tyler.
What's up, man?
All right. First of all, I want to say, obviously, we've been friends since we were 14, but I remember when you started this whole podcasting thing, we were 18, and we were both freshman year of college, and I remember FaceTiming you, talking to you for like 2 hours about it. And I just want to say, as a friend, I'm very proud of you for all of this.
Thank you, man.
But on a completely different note, I think everyone here is wondering, what's your dating life like?
Yo, you're a narc, bro. Damn, you are not invited to the after party. Complicated? No, not complicated.
Wow, you finally lost your words.
It's good. Well, I can't even see anything. I don't want to. Oh, jeez. It's good. Thank you for asking, and we can talk about it more. We can talk about it. Uh-oh, yeah, go ahead, Isabel.
This is my best friend for 15 years.
It's like a wedding.
Yeah.
I love you.
Yeah, of course not. And John has honestly been such an influence on him in a positive way, changed his life. And Felix has moved into this amazing space of podcasting and like exploring so many people's stories. And I'm just wondering when you're gonna let me on the podcast to interview you.
That's sweet. No, I didn't mean it like that. I love you. Next week. You come to the studio. Yeah, you got it. Okay.
So, everything that you guys have been through so far, right? The ping pong back and forth, right? Separate, get back together. Where and what do you see as your goal here? Being back together as a pair, because I love you. I think this is the best duo that I've seen so far, and you guys can grow so much. And I just want to know what your goals are and where you think you'll be. Like, what do you see going forward, right? Because, like I said, I think this is the deal here. I think this is the thing. You guys have an amazing relationship where you bounce off of each other exactly how you said your lives are opposite, and just the way you've grown over the past 2 years is just amazing to see. Same thing for him as well. So where's your goal? What's the next move for you guys? Because I think this can go far.
Go ahead. I might
I guess-
talk politics and you don't want me
Oh
to.
man, you talk politics. There's no future at all. No, the true answer is I don't know. You know, I think we just signed with our there's our
Where is
management
he?
over there. Our managers are over there.
Mike and Don.
Mike and Don. I don't know is the answer. I think that this is truly the oddest couple. I think you can see that we are polar opposites, and I think that there's a lot that we can do. I hope for, and this is really the reason that I got started in the beginning, and was yes to get some of those stories out because I think they're obviously very interesting. But more importantly, like truly when we say like changing and helping individuals, like the amount of DMs and messages that he gets, obviously more so, but I also receive a handful of them because of people that watch our show, is, like some of them are so touching about how I used to be in X gang or X part of X whatever organized crime, and now I work at a restaurant. I drive for Uber, right? Like I do things that'll take me on a path that's not living a life of crime, and I think that if the true mission is to try to save people, which I believe, and I know because I've seen it, and things that he won't put in front of the camera, I've seen the way he interacts and calls these people, is I hope that we can help more people not fall into the trap that he did, because for years it's great and there's the money and the fame and all of that, but you know firsthand the suffering that comes with it. So I think that's, I don't know what the future holds, but I hope that we can hopefully help some people. And
Good.
thanks, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, how you doing? Listen, John, I almost remember me, but you gave me some good advice over 25 years ago. I met you in Island Boys. My name is Yancey.
I remember you. Yeah.
That's right. I married a woman.
Brother, wait a second. I got to just say
Wait,
something.
bring him up. Come on up. Oh, he's coming.
All right. John, help me turn my life around. John,
Sit down. Grab a mic.
I got to say something before you even talk. I'm going to tell you something because this country's always divided. And I was in Allenwood, and a white guy, Italian guy, got knocked out, Joe Mecca.
Yeah.
They jumped him. I was friends with one of the black guys that jumped in, and because it wasn't a fair fight, I jumped in, not because of color, not because of race. Me and him were tight. And he stood with me. And he says, I don't care. This ain't about color. This is just about ain't doing it right. And he knows the way I act. Since then, my kids act this way. And the problem with the country is everybody's always hating on each other. And really, I've been talking about you forever, man. I'm so happy you're here. I had no idea. I'm so happy.
So wait, remind me your name. What's here? It's the
my
mic.
name is Derek Yancey.
Yancey, I'm from Hollis, man. That's how well I come on, man.
Yeah. And my
I still talk about you all the time.
And I was telling my wife about you all the time. I said, I got to find you. When I saw you, I said, I got to come to this pod. I got to come out and see the pod because you helped me get my life together, man.
They're speaking.
Start telling me about how I can go out there and I can do something different with my life. I ain't had to do things I used to do. And I haven't seen that penitentiary since that time.
Good for you, man.
25 years.
Yeah, it's good.
You know what I mean?
What was some of that advice, and what was some of that advice that he gave you at that time?
Well, John was telling me, he said, yo, you're smart. You're a smart kid. You don't have to follow and do the things you used to. You can do something different. And just going there having a regular life. So you need a regular life. You did all that before, and look where you got. Look where we at. Right? And I was just sad that he got out. He had to go on a run when he got out. But he was trying to change his life. He didn't get a chance because everything just fell apart. But he got out.
Yeah, he knows a couple of guys. Big Terry got in touch with me. He came into the pizzeria. We had a pizza place.
Oh, yeah?
And I had the incident we had was with a guy who was actually friends with Muhammad, but I jumped in and, you know what's funny? I always say the same thing. Life's not a sprint. It's a marathon, and when you run into good people, and you were always a good guy, and this is what this is about. Honestly, this is to answer the question earlier about what we want, I think you asked, my son asked, is just to keep helping the next guy get along, because Ted helped me, Jim helped me. If I help you, and one at a time, people help each other, help the next kid, and really that's what my goal is. It's as simple as that.
And
It's amazing because of you, I become a good influence on my nephew. My nephew's a police officer right now.
Yeah, good for him.
And I'm just like you, I hated cops. You know,
Yeah.
Like, we was on different sides, but life was confused.
Yeah.
It was tricked.
Yeah.
That's what was going on.
what have you been doing since you got out in life?
Well, first of all, I was driving an RV truck for a medical RV, and I just started my own cargo company.
Oh, wow.
Maybe like in August.
Thank you so much for coming. We'll talk after. Thank you so much.
Before you go, I need to go.
You'll come.
Where's your wife at? There you go. He's such a good man.
Such a great guy.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Most guys don't stand when the odds are against them like that. He's still with me. And I'll never forget that. I've been talking about him for years. Yeah. 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 He made my night early.
Thank you so much. Did you
Huh?
Did you?
Yeah. That's why I took my glasses. I said, I knew it was you.
Miss over here.
Hi, John. Hi, guys.
Hi.
I had a question. It's really intriguing because thinking that your past has been what it was and facing the reality and the judgment of the society, what really was the indicator for you to come out and show yourself and be an example for the society? Because there are a lot of people out there that have done bad things, but they never got the courage to come out there and be an example. What made you be one?
I think my father, as a kid, wanted me to learn, and Yancey will talk just the way I jumped in Allenwood. I don't like groups or to be weak and need a whole group behind me to be able to stand up. So I think that coming forward maybe will give courage to the next guy. And when I stood up, like I just said earlier, he was one of the few guys who would stand with me. All those mob guys, he knows that were there, they all ran for the hills, and nobody stood with me, but he stood with me. And I think it's the same way in a good note. You got to have the courage to stand up and speak out and tell the truth. And guys that gave me the courage, guys like Ted, like I said earlier, they don't understand how much of an influence they had on me to say that I could change my life. And I could go back to who the person I was when I was born. When we grow up and we're kids, 5 years old in a schoolyard, there is no hate in any of our hearts. I think it's learned and it's taught, and it's something that if people want to make people hate each other, or you want to hate people, or frustrated with yourself, you start projecting that. I think when you start liking yourself, loving yourself, want to love your kids, I think that you'll do the right thing. So hopefully the more I push this, people will feel the same way and have the courage to come out.
Let's take one last question if anybody has it. All the way in the back. You might have to scream.
I mean, it's not a question. My name's Andy Vangelli. Your father was born in the same place that, well, my dad was born in Jailmate, and I was wrongfully convicted, and you brought my family on your show, and I thank you so much for that.
You mind me asking what's your last name? Yeah, yeah. And I know, obviously, I'm friendly with your mom and your situation, and I'm sorry for what happened to you. And recently, I'm working. Unfortunately, this world's not perfect, and I'm working with a case with Oscar Lugo. People that listen to my shows, he got 440 years, no violence ever in his record, 22 years in prison, no violence, no tickets. And I'm not saying that everybody deserves an opportunity depending on what they did and what's in their heart, but he's one guy that was a lot of injustice also to him, and hopefully guys like your case and other cases can get overturned, and we can fix a system that has a lot of flaws in it. And you know, me, I was lucky enough to have some good people behind me, and I'm not one of those guys like you that didn't do what and was convicted for. I did what I did, actually. I don't make excuses for what I did. I just lived a stupid, bad life. And for the guys like you, I really feel bad for, I pray for. And the reason I brought your mom and your family on is because I know your case. I read it. And I pick a handful of cases a year, and I try to work on them now and try to help some of the cases that I believe are injustice. So thank you also for coming. I really appreciate it.
To wrap things up, and I like to ask people this when they come on my show, and I don't think I've ever asked you, is knock on wood, many more years of life, but how do you hope people remember you?
I started off as a good kid. I went very bad, and I want my legacy to be that I helped save lives, not take lives, and gave people the courage to move forward in the right direction, obviously, and just live a positive life. Live by the way I was taught and raised, not the guy years ago I became. So hopefully they'll remember me for some of the good stuff I'm trying to do now and the work I'm doing with kids, organizations, and just move forward the same way, and one life at a time. If we can save it, it's something positive. Are you Melissa?
Yes.
I know, okay. How are you? Yeah, I read the... By the way, anybody needs any good jewelers, she's a jeweler. Yeah.
Always talking business. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming out. This was... I'll speak for myself, and I'll let you handle the last words, but this was so cool to see so many familiar, unfamiliar faces, hear some very interesting stories, very different perspectives, different generations, all walks of life, and it means a lot to me personally, I know to this guy, for you guys to all come out and spend your Thursday evening. I found out it's a Jewish holiday today. I'm a bad Jew. It's also the Thursday before Memorial Day weekend, so for you guys to come here really means the world, so thank you guys so much.
Thank you, everybody. Please put comments out on the video if you see it, write in, or suggest anything for helping anybody. Anybody you know need help, please reach out to us. Write into us. Thank you.
Show love to your wait staff. Show love to everybody around you, and thank you guys for coming out.